Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Beaver. I'm the political director of the National Federation of Republican Women, and we have some exciting polls that I could not wait to share with you that came out today that the Trump team shared with us this morning. And I want to break those down for you because this is the most important election of our lifetime, and we're being told basically that this is neck and neck, that this is basically tied, and it could be anybody's race at this point. I feel like after being in the field and knocking doors and talking to a lot of voters, I feel like this is Trump's election, but let's look at some of the data that came out this morning. Let's start in Arizona. Republicans are currently ahead by 8 points in mail-in ballot returns and early votes that have been cast there. We are seeing a major gender gap on the Democrat side. Only 40% of the votes that have come in so far on the Democrat side are men, and 50% of the votes that have come in on the Republican side are for men. So in most of these polls, it seems that Trump is doing way better with men than Kamala is with women, which could be not good news for her. Most of this data today is coming from TargetSmart, a Democrat data analyst, Tom Barnyar, I'm not quite sure how you say it. I think it's Barnyar. But according to him, in Arizona, urban turnout is down 31% compared to this point in 2020. That's a lot. That is a total of 385,000 votes that the Democrats do not have at this point that they had in 2020. At the same time, rural turnout is up about 14,000 votes or per the voter registration. So that is that's pretty interesting for Arizona. Let's go to Georgia. Similar patterns as Arizona. Tom is reporting that African-American turnout is down 7%. We know that Trump is doing much better with the African-American demographic than he was in 2020 and is on record to shatter any record that has been set by him before. The urban turnout is down, per Tom and the Democrats, 20%. And even the suburban turnout is down 6% in Georgia. So I'm going to say that again. Urban turnout in Georgia is down 20% from where it was at this point in the election in 2020, and the suburban turnout is down 6% in Georgia during the absentee and early voting as they were in 2020. That is, and the rural turnout is up 13%. So that is a difference of 153,000 fewer urban voters at this point in Georgia, and rural turnout is up about 175,000. So massive, massive shift for the Republicans in Georgia this election. Michigan, for the first time ever, we are seeing that they had in-person early voting. Typically, it's just mail-in early voting. And with that, 1 million people decided to take part in early voting in Michigan. They don't have party registration there, so we don't know. We're just going off of, what we think. Typically, in all the polls that we've seen, most in-person voters in Michigan, especially early in-person, are going to go for Trump. So per this poll, it looks pretty good for Trump at this point. Let's see. Urban turnout is down 31% in Michigan. That's not good for the Democrats. That's about 320,000 missing votes that the Democrats had in 2020 that they do not have now. And at the same time, rural turnout is up about 15 to 16,000. So, Michigan is one of those we're still on the fence about, but those numbers are not looking good for the Democrats. Let's go to North Carolina. Very exciting news in North Carolina. Republicans won the early mail-in ballot voting for the first time in history. It has literally never been done before. So Republicans have turned in more mail-in registration. Republicans have turned in more mail-in and have early voted more. Second in line is unaffiliated voters, and third place are Democrats. So North Carolina is looking like it's going red. Per the Democrat analyst, just like we're seeing in Georgia, the African-American voter turnout is down 16%, and urban turnout is down 31%. That is a difference of 175,000 missing votes that the Democrats would have had at this point 4 years ago in North Carolina. The gender gap for the Democrats, only 37% of Democrats who have voted so far are men, and 49% of Republicans who have voted so far are men. So, once again, we're seeing that margin. Trump is doing better with men than Kamala is doing with women. Let's head over to Nevada. Again, Republicans are winning the early voting turnout by 4 points in Nevada. We see a gender gap also here in Nevada. 42% of the Democrats who have voted are men. 52% of the Republicans are men. So that's another 10-point difference there. According to the Democrat pollsters at Target Smart, 27% down in the urban vote. Urban turnout is 27% down at this point than it was in 2020. That is about 200,000 missing votes for the Democrats as it stands now. If you're familiar with Nevada politics, they have something called the Clark mail dump. The Clark County, which is Vegas, it's one of their largest counties, dumps all of their mail-in ballots the Saturday before the election. Not only is the number of ballots turned in much less than it was, but Republicans have 5% more of those than they did in 2020. So it's also looking pretty good in Nevada at this point. Let's move to Pennsylvania, probably one of the largest success stories for the Republicans. We have closed the gap by 20 points in terms of party registration for mail-in ballots compared to the same point 4 years ago. The total number of ballots, let me start over. Even when we had the new same-day absentee ballot voting, the total number of ballots are down 30% from 2020. Many fewer and much more Republican than Democrat at this point. To that end, there are almost 700,000 registered Democrats in Pennsylvania who voted by mail in either 2020 or 2022 that have not requested a ballot in 2024. Let me say that again. Almost 700,000 registered Democrats in Pennsylvania who voted by mail in either 2020 or 2022 have not requested a ballot in 2024. And the deadline has passed. So that's a huge number. You can go back and look at 2020. That election was not, the whole election was not decided by 100,000 voters or 700,000 voters. So that's not good for the Democrats. Urban turnout is down 49%. Urban turnout is down 49%. That is a difference of almost 400,000 votes that they are missing in Pennsylvania, that the Democrats are missing in Pennsylvania, that they had at this point in 2020 that they do not have now. That's a massive shift. Pennsylvania is looking very good for the Republicans. Wisconsin, much like Michigan, they're having in-person voting there. That is, not typically how they do things. In 2020, only 34% of the pre-election votes were cast in person. It was a majority mail-in election for the people who voted before Election Day today. So still early voting. 63% of the votes that have come in in person. Once again, we see early in-person voting typically goes for Trump when there is a massive mail-in system in that state. So urban turnout, 34% down. Urban turnout in Wisconsin is down 34%. That is a difference of 100,000 votes that they're missing in this election that they had in 2020 at this point. So, we're seeing across the board urban turnout down around 30% in almost all of these swing states. That does not look good for the Democrats. They typically take those urban votes. So, a lot to look out for coming up. One more poll, the Emerson College poll across all of the swing states. And this is really interesting. I'm going to try to get this in 2 minutes. President Trump is leading in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. He is tied in Wisconsin and Nevada. They show a 2-point lead for Harris in Michigan, which is a D+1 electorate. That is, if it stands, 281 electoral votes for President Trump without taking into consideration those two tied states. So potentially, all it takes is 270. He could take it with 281. And if he got one of those, Wisconsin or Nevada, per this poll, he could win with over 281 electoral votes. Inside that data, President Trump is winning seniors in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Nevada. And he's tied with Harris in Michigan with seniors. President Trump is also getting a higher share of the male vote in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin than Harris is among female voters. And they are tied among male voters in Michigan. So all of these early absentee, early in-person voting data is looking really good for the Republicans. Don't forget to get out and vote if you haven't yet. The only way we lose is if you don't vote. Vote Republican down the ballot, and let's make America great again.